Dear students, I hereby welcoming all of you to my classroom. Today we are going to take The Happy Prince, the lesson which is taken from the Moments. The story is about a prince. When the prince was alive, he was very happy. After his death, a big statue of his was erected on a pedestal. From there, the statue of prince could see the entire city, and at that time he saw the miseries of the people. He saw the poor people, the homeless, their hunger and starvation. The prince was sad to see all these miseries, sadness of the people. So in this chapter, we will study the story of this prince. The Happy Prince, it was written by a great writer, Oscar Wilde. Let us understand about the profile of Oscar Wilde. Oscar Fingal O'Flaherty Wills Wilde. He was born on 16th October 1854 and he passed away 30th November 1900. He was an Irish poet and playwright. After writing in different forms throughout the 1880s, the early 1890s saw him become one of the most popular playwrights in London. He is best remembered for his epigrams and plays. His novel, The Picture of Dorian Gray, and the circumstances of his criminal conviction for gross indecency, imprisonment, and early death at the age of 46. Let us start our story. High above the city, on a tall column, stood the statue of the Happy Prince. He was gilded all over with the thin leaves of fine gold. For eyes he had two bright sapphires, and a large red ruby glowed on his sword hilt. The statue of a prince stood on a high platform overlooking the city. This prince was called a Happy Prince because when he was alive, he always remained very happy. Upon his death, a big statue of his was erected in the center of the city in his remembrance. The statue of this Happy Prince was covered with thin layers of gold, and instead of eyeballs, there were two bright shining sapphire stones. In the handle of his sword, a bright ruby stone was placed. A strange thing happened. That is, one night there flew over the city a little swallow. His friends had gone away to Egypt 6 weeks before, but he had stayed behind. Then he decided to go to Egypt too. Swallow is a very tiny bird. Although it is not a human being, the writer says that he says that all the friends of this swallow had flown away to Egypt 6 weeks ago. This bird did not go with them, but later it had thought of going to Egypt to his friends. So it was on its way to Egypt. The bird kept on flying on its way to Egypt, and at night it reached the city of the Happy Prince. It wanted to stay somewhere for the night. The things upon where to stay at night. The bird says that hopefully the city has made some arrangements for it to stay. Obviously, the bird does not mean what it is saying. We can say that probably the bird is being humorous. I have a golden bedroom, the prince said. So the bird thought that it was a good place to spend the night. There was shelter and a lot of fresh air. So the bird came and alighted, stopped and sat in between the feet of the statue of the happy prince. When the bird sat in between the feet of the happy prince, it was surrounded with gold. So it thought that it had a bedroom made of gold because it was surrounded by gold all around. As it was about to sleep, as it was putting its head under the wing, suddenly a large drop of water fell on it. The bird was surprised because all of a sudden a drop of water fell on it. It thought that neither was it raining nor the rainy season was going on. The swallow could not believe this because the sky was not cloudy and stars were shining. Just then, another drop of water fell on it. The swallow thought that the statue was useless because it was not able to protect it from the rain. So he thought he should not sleep under the statue. The swallow thought that it was better if it took shelter in a chimney of a house, and thought to move away from there because the statue was not able to protect from the rain. Before the bird flew away, the third drop of water fell on him, and it looked up. What did he see? Let us find out. As soon as the bird looked up, he saw that the eyes of the happy princess statue were filled with tears. These drops of water were the teardrops falling off the statue's golden cheeks. When Swallow looked at happy prince's face, it was looked beautiful in the moonlight. Little bird's heart was filled with pity for the weeping statue. It asked the statue that who it was. The statue replied that it was the happy prince. Why are you weeping then? Asked the swallow. You have quite drenched me. The swallow thought that the statue was of the happy prince, but it was crying. The bird asked the statue why it was crying. It added that it had soaked it with its tears. The prince replied like this: When I was alive and had a human heart, I did not know what tears were, for I lived in the palace where sorrow is not allowed to enter. My courtiers called me the happy prince, and happy indeed I was. So I lived, and so I died, and not that I am dead. They have set me up here so high that I can see the ugliness and all the misery of my city, and though my heart is made of lead, yet I cannot choose but weep. The happy prince narrated his story to the swallow. The happy prince said that when he was alive and he had a human heart means here the heart which beats is alive. At that time he was not aware that tears were and what sorrow was, as he lived in a place where there was happiness all around. All the people who used to work in his court used to call him happy prince because he used to be happy all the time and he had not seen sorrow at all. And he said that he lived happily and died in happiness only. When he had a human heart, he never cried. He was not aware what tears were because he had seen happiness only when never faced any sorrow. Now, when he was dead, they had put him so high in the form of a statue on a pedestal that he could see the whole city and the ugliness of the city. He could see that there were so many people living in misery, that is, lack of food, hunger, money, homelessness. Now, when the statue's heart was made of lead, a metal, although it did not have any feelings, then also when it saw all sadness, it became sad and wept. When the happy prince was telling his sad story, the swallow was thinking about something else in his mind. The bird wondered that the statue was the prince was not made of solid gold. It was surprised. It thought that from outside the statue was covered with gold, but as it is said that the heart was made of lead and not of gold, to realize that it was hollow and was not made of solid gold. It saw that the statue was very sad and was crying. So he did not make any personal remarks. He did not comment anything about the statue because it was giving the value of the statue's feelings. The statue continued its story. It spoke in a very musical voice that far away there was a house of a poor woman. The window of her house was open, and it could see through the window that she was sitting near the table. Her face was thin, and she was tired. Her hands were rough and had become red because they had been pricked by the needle. The woman was a seamstress. She is embroidering flowers on a satin gown for the loveliest of the queen's maids of honor to wear at the next court ball. In a bed in the corner of the room, her little boy is lying ill. He has a fever and is asking his mother to give him oranges. His mother has nothing to give him but river water, so he is crying. Swallow, swallow, little swallow, will you not bring her the ruby out of my sword hilt? The prince asked the swallow. My feet are fastened to this pedestal and it cannot move. The woman was embroidering flowers on a gown on the queen's maid who would walk along with the queen during the court ball. The statue said that the lady who was embroidering the gown had a little child who was not well. He was suffering from fever and was asking his mom to give him oranges. So the happy princess statue requested the sailor to take out the ruby stone from the handle of its sword and give it away to the lady. It added that its feet were fastened on the platform because of which it could not move. The swallow replied that it had to go to Egypt. Its friends were waiting for it. The swallow said that its friends were in Egypt. They were flying near the Nile River and talking to the large lotus flowers which grew there. Soon they would go to sleep, and so they wanted to reach Egypt at the earliest. The statue requested the swallow to stay with him for one night. He asked him to be his messenger and work on his behalf. He said that the boy was very thirsty and his mother was very sad, so it should go and give the ruby stone to her. Once again, the swallow opposed his request and said that it did not like boys, so why should it help that boy? Moreover, it had to go to Egypt. The happy prince was so sad that Swallow felt sorry for him. He said that it was very cold there, but it would stay with him for one night, and the next morning it would do his work. The happy prince thanked him. Finally, the swallow took out the ruby stone from the happy prince's sword, and the bird took the ruby on its beak and flew over the town. As the swallow was on its way to the poor woman's house, it passed the cathedral. Cathedral, that is a church, and on the church's tower, white-colored marble angels were sculptured. Then he reached the palace. He crossed the palace, and he could hear the sound of dancing from inside the palace. When the swallow was crossing over the palace, a girl came out on the balcony along with her lover. She was hoping that the gown which she had given to the seamstress for embroidering would be ready on time. She was talking about the same gown on which that lady was doing embroidering, to whom the bird had to give the ruby stone. When the swallow flew over the river, ships also came along the way. Lanterns were hanging on their sails. Finally, the swallow reached the woman's house. The boy was suffering from fever, and for that reason, he was not able to go to sleep. So he was turning left and right on his bed, and his mother was very tired due to working for long and had fallen asleep. After keeping the ruby stone on the table, the swallow went near the boy as his mother was sleeping, and no one was taking care of him. It shook its wings near him, because of which the boy could felt the cool air and felt better. The boy felt that he was getting better and went to sleep. With this, we can make out that the swallow was a kind-hearted bird. The swallow flew back and went to the statue of Happy Prince and told him what all he had done. Now the bird felt warm. It says that it was very strange that it was feeling little warm even though the weather was very cold. The prince said that it was feeling warm because it had done a good deed. It had helped someone. After listening to Happy Prince, the swallow started thinking, and when he started thinking, he felt sleepy, because whenever he thought, he used to feel sleepy. When it was night and the moon rose in the sky, the swallow went to the Happy Prince and sought permission to leave for Egypt. Now again, Happy Prince requested Swallow to stay with him for one more night, and Swallow replied that he needed to go to Egypt because his friends were waiting for him. Now, here the Happy Prince is telling the swallow about his second work. He says that far away across the city, I could see in a small dark room at the top of the house, a young man is sitting. He was sitting on a desk on which the papers were spread all over, and he was trying to work hard. He had a glass lying near him in which withered flowers were lying. Further, the Happy Prince said that this boy needed to finish writing a play or a drama. He was a writer, and he had to give the play to the director after writing. But he did not have strength to write anymore because he was feeling very cold. The boy had no money, so that is why there was no fire in his fireplace, and he was very hungry also, due to which he was feeling very weak. The swallow understood what Happy Prince was trying to tell him. He knew that Happy Prince wanted to help this boy, so he agreed to stay back for one more night. And further, the swallow asked Happy Prince if he should take another ruby stone to give it to the young playwright, the one who writes play, just like he had given it to the old lady. The swallow was very sad to learn that the Happy Prince wanted to give his eyes to that boy and started crying. He told Happy Prince that he would not do so. But then the Happy Prince ordered the swallow to do what he had told him to do. So finally the swallow took out one sapphire out of the prince's eye, and flew to the young man's garret. There was a hole on the roof of the room, so the swallow entered the room through that hole. The boy was sitting with his head on his hands, and that is why he did not hear the flutter of the bird's wing. And when he looked up, he saw the sapphire stone lying on the dried flowers. When the boy saw the beautiful stone, he felt that some admirer, some person who praised him, had sent a gift for him. So he thought that with this he could now finish his play. Next morning, the swallow bird flew down to the harbor and on a mast of a ship. He spoke loudly that he was going to Egypt, and when it was night, he flew back to Happy Prince. Swallow once again told the Happy Prince that it had come to say goodbye. He was going to Egypt, and once again, Happy Prince requested Swallow to stay with him for one more night. The swallow said to the Happy Prince that the winter season had started, and after some time it would start snowing. The weather in Egypt was warm, and even the crocodiles lay on the mud lazily there. So he told him to let him go to Egypt. Now, this was the third assignment. The Happy Prince said that there was a match girl. She was a little girl, and all her matchsticks had fallen on the gutter and got wet. All her matchsticks were spoilt, so she could not sell them, and she would not earn any money. And when she would go home without money, then her father would get angry and beat her. For this reason, the girl was crying. Further, the Happy Prince said that she was not wearing shoes or stockings, and she had not covered her head. She was very poor. So he said to the swallow to take out another sapphire from his eyes and give it to her so that her father didn't beat her. So finally the swallow obeyed the Happy Prince's order. He took another sapphire stone from his eye and flew to the little match girl. And when he saw the match girl, he bent very low and kept the sapphire stone on the little girl's hand. The little girl was very happy to see the stone, and she went home happily. Then the swallow came back to the prince. "You are blind now," he said, "so I will stay with you always." When swallow returned to the Happy Prince, he told him that now he was blind, and so he would stay with him forever. But Happy Prince said to the swallow that he should go to Egypt. But swallow refused and said that he would stay with him only, and she slept on the prince's feet. "Dear little swallow," said the prince, "you tell me of marvelous things, but more marvelous than anything is the suffering of men and women. There is no mystery so great as misery. Fly over my city, little swallow, and tell me what you see there." The Happy Prince said to the swallow to tell him wonderful things, but added that nothing was more wonderful than the suffering of people. No mystery was bigger than sadness, and he wanted to know who all were sad in his kingdom. So he asked the swallow to go and let him know what he saw while flying over the city. So the swallow flew over the great city and saw the rich making merry on their beautiful houses, while the beggars were sitting at the gates. He flew into the dark lanes and saw the white faces of starving children looking out listlessly at the black streets. So the swallow flew and took a round over the city and saw that the rich people were living happily in their beautiful houses, and they were playing and partying, while the poor people were begging and sitting outside the gates. Then he went to the dark lanes where there was no light also, and the poor people lived. There he saw that the children were hungry, due to which their faces had turned white. Further, the swallow saw two little boys under the archway of the bridge. They were lying much close to the eye each other, so that they kept themselves warm. They were so poor, they didn't have food, so they were trying to keep each other warm. "How hungry we are," they said. "You must not lie here," shouted the watchman, and they wandered into the rain. Two children were starving and wandering. that how hungry they were. Just then a watchman appeared and scolded them. He shouted and made them go away from there. The poor children keep wandering in the rain as they were homeless. Swallow went back to Happy Prince and told him what he had seen in the city. The Happy Prince told Swallow that his whole body was covered with fine gold. He could take tiny pieces of gold from his body and give it to the poor people in need. All the living beings required money, and when they would get gold, they would feel happy. Slowly, the swallow took out the gold layers from the statue of Happy Prince, and as he removed the layers of the gold, the Happy Prince's statue started looking dull and grey. Leaf after lead, the fine gold he brought to the poor. And the children's faces grew rosier, and they laughed and played in the street. We have bread now, they cried. Finally, it started snowing, and when a lot of snow fell, everything froze. Everyone was wearing clothes made of fur. Small children were wearing red color caps and were roaming here and there. They were skating on the ice. The bird did not want to die, so he used to go to the bakery where the baker used to bake the bread, to eat the bread crumbs and try to keep himself warm by flapping his wings. The swallow was aware that he was about to die. He had only enough strength to fly back to the statue of Happy Prince, and he says, "Goodbye, dear prince," he murmured. "Will you let me kiss your hand?" "I am glad that you are going to Egypt at last, little swallow," said the prince. Happy Prince thought that the swallow wanted to go to Egypt. So he said that he was happy that finally the bird was going to Egypt. The swallow bird said to the Happy Prince that he was not going to Egypt but to the house of death. He added that death was brother of sleep. He kissed the Happy Prince on his lips and fell down to the feet of Happy Prince and died. As soon as the bird died on the Happy Prince's feet, an unusual sound came out from the statue. The sound was of the breaking of the statue's heart, which was made of a lead. The heart broke because of the death of his beloved bird, but it is said that it was so cold that the heart broke into two pieces. The mayor of the city, along with his councillors, was taking a round of the area where the statue of Happy Prince was erected. And when he crossed the statue and looked up at it, he said that the statue of Happy Prince looked untidy. The councillors always agreed with whatever the mayor used to say. They also asserted that the statue looked untidy. The mayor noticed that ruby stone which was placed in the handle of the sword was missing. The sapphires from the statue's eyes were also missing. The layer of the gold from its body was also missing. And there is actually a dead bird at this feet. The mayor noticed that a dead bird was lying on the feet of the statue. Then he told the town councillors to pass an order that birds were not allowed to die on the feet of the statue, and the town clerk made a note of the suggestion given by him. The art professor of the university said that now the statue of the Happy Prince did not look beautiful and was not useful anymore, and so they should demolish it. Then they melted the statue in a furnace. So they melted the statue, which was made of lead, in a furnace. The supervisor of the foundry saw a strange thing. His broken lead heart will not melt in the furnace. He must throw it away. The heart of the Happy Prince's statue, which was broken into two pieces, was not melting in the furnace. So they threw it as it is in the dust heap. Coincidentally, they threw the heart of the happy prince where the dead swallow was also lying. Bring me the two most precious things in the city, said God to his angels. And the angel brought him the leaden heart and the dead bird. God asked one of his angels to bring him the two most precious things of the city. You have rightly chosen, said God. For in my garden of paradise, this little bird shall sing for evermore, and in my city of gold, the happy prince shall praise me. God said to the angels that it had brought the right thing. It had chosen the right things which were indeed the most precious things of the city. He said that the bird would always sing in the garden of his paradise, and the happy prince would stay in his city of gold and admire him.